Have you ever been called a pragmatic person? If you don't know what that means, look it up right now on merriam-webster's-dictionary.com. You'll find out, and then you'll be like, yes, I've been called that before. Or actually, if you've never been called that before, I guess you wouldn't even know that word. So never mind the stupid thing that I just said, because clearly I was wrong. I was in the wrong. I apologize for that. I apologize for lots of things now. Listen, people call me pragmatic, and basically what that means is that I'm a practical person. I don't know if that's something that you just become, or if you're born into it, or whatever. Or maybe it's just something that you kind of pick up, or maybe it's not even something that has to do with you, but more with the people around you who observe you and the things that you say, and then compare them to themselves, because everybody's so egocentric all the time, especially your old pal SparkleDart. And listen, I've got the biggest ego I'm out there, but I don't let it get to my head. And the joke there is that if you have a big ego, it does get to your head, and that's the thing. Like people, I was talking a little bit ago about people who check out the past episode of this particular playthrough that I'm doing right now, and you'll see what I was talking about people who buy like expensive things because of the status that it brings them, like cars, or televisions, or backyards, or pools, or buildings. I don't know. You ever bought a building before? I'm not talking like a house. I'm talking like a building where they would do business, where they would conduct business. Like there'd be offices on every floor that are all part of different companies, and every floor is leased out by a different company, and you own them all. And it's like, okay, well, all of these companies pay me rent, and that's how I pay for this building. And at this point, it's like, well, you know, I've basically making a living just owning the building, even though I don't have a very good lifestyle. Not to say that it's bad or anything, but it's not like super nice, because I have to spend all my money maintaining this building. I got security, janitorial duties, I got maintenance and all that stuff. That all comes out of my pocket. But all the rent that I make renting out the leases to the different floors is nice, and that that brings me a little extra money my way a month. But I do still have to have my own job, and I can't just live off of owning a building. Now that sounds like a pretty sweet gig, I know, but unfortunately life doesn't work out that way. There's a lot of barriers that keep you from doing things like that. Unfortunately people will judge you for trying to find an easy way out, so to speak. If you try to find an easy way, what is going? Oh, I see. Never mind. I understand now. You try to find an easy way out of like working and doing something like that. You know, your old pal SparkleDart, he's got a very nice job. He works 4 to midnight. You know, he works Monday through Friday, and that's nice, and that's very cushy. Cushy is a word that I like to use because it's so disgusting to listen to the ears that people can't help but look at you when you say the word cushy. They're like, would you please not say that word anymore? It's starting to disgust me, and vomit is starting to come out of my nose because I held it back from coming out of my mouth, and now it's just like kind of going all over the place. It's like a spurting fountain. And then I'm like, well, don't use the word spurting, because I find that word to be disgusting. And they're like, well, if you're going to say cushy, I'm going to say spurty. And I'm like, you know what, that's absolutely fine. That's a very fair trade-off. Actually, if I'm being quite honest, that's a very fair trade-off. And I would never ask somebody to do it that they weren't so comfortable with, because I'm a nice guy, you know. I've said it before, I'll say it again. SparkleDart is a nice, gentle boy. A very gentle boy. And if you don't agree with that, then I guess that's kind of your own problem. Now, the thing about me is that all right, that was surprising. The thing about me is that I'm very meticulous in the way that I like to do things. I like to be very particular, specific, and I don't like to deviate from my standard course of action. Now, I know you have to compromise, and I was saying I work a very nice job, and when you work a job, you have to make compromises to accommodate your coworkers or whatever. And it's like, well, you know, this is fine because I like these people. They're nice. They're very friendly, thoughtful, and they help me out when I need it. So why shouldn't I help them out when they need it? And that's all well and good, but sometimes when you have to deviate, you get a little bit upset because you have this master game plan, and it's like, well, at this point, I just kind of want to do my own thing, but now I have to work with all these people because it's a big project that we're working on, and I can't possibly manage every moving part on my own, so I have to like bring all these people into my life and like call them and open up Skype conferences with these people that I spend 8 hours a day with every single day, Monday through Friday, except on the weekends. Sometimes we'll go out to the bar on Friday night after work for a nice tall cold one, and maybe we'll do it karaoke or something, because karaoke is fun. If you've never done karaoke, you should definitely check it out. It's nice to do. It gets you out on your feet. It gets you really up there, and you get to kind of experience all the things that maybe you've never forced yourself to do before. Like, you know, public speaking is something a lot of people do in college, and that's all well and good. That's all fine. That's fantastic. Absolutely no problems there. But the thing is, if you've never done something like that, then you don't know how to, and then it's just a really good feeling when you can finally make yourself go out and do something that you've never done before, that you were never really comfortable with doing in the past, and people will applaud you, because everybody loves karaoke. Now listen, my name is SparkleDart. I love karaoke. If you do karaoke, I respect the hell out of you, because not everybody can do it, and not everybody can sing. And you might think, well, SparkleDart, can you sing? And my answer to you is, I will not tell you that. That is not any of your business. I do like to do songs by the band Queen. That's a good band. I like Queen a lot because they do a lot of good songs. Freddie Mercury is a very, very, very talented boy, a very talented young man who died because of AIDS, and that's sad, but it's also kind of funny because AIDS is funny. And if you've ever, like, we're at a point now kind of where AIDS is starting to go away. AIDS isn't as much of a problem as it used to be. Certainly back in the 80s and 90s when people thought it was, they called it actually GRID, the disease GRID instead of AIDS, because it stood for gay-related infectious disease. And I'm like, well, you know, that's a little bit much, I think, to make such a bold claim that only gay people can have AIDS, or that AIDS spreads specifically through gay sexual intercourse. Now, if you've ever tried to give blood or nothing like that, you'll notice that on the forms they say things like, have you ever had homosexual intercourse, if you're a man specifically? And it's like, well, I don't see how that's any of your business. And then they'll be like, well, it is our business, because we know that AIDS spreads pretty well that way. AIDS actually spreads pretty well through the butthole. I was talking a little bit ago about how I think buttholes are gross. But that's how AIDS will spread fastest. You can get it other ways too, like blood transfusions, or possibly saliva, or if maybe you eat the same ketchup as a person who has AIDS, you might get it. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not saying that it's possible, but I'm not saying it's impossible either. You just have to kind of be wary about the things that you do. You have to ask everybody, hey, do you have AIDS? And then they'll be like, yes or no. And they will tell you, because everybody is kind and they're thoughtful. And nobody would ever be a liar about something like that, because it's very important for everybody to know if you got the AIDS. Now, unfortunately, some people are chastised for having diseases like that, like syphilis or the clap or something like that. But I kind of gotta question why that would be such a problem, because to be honest, I don't have any physical. If I'm not having any physical contact with these people who have these diseases, then they're not going to give it to me, and that's kind of where I stand on the matter. Now, I do like to wear rubber gloves all the time when I talk to them, specifically them and nobody else, but not for any particular reason, not because of the AIDS or nothing like that. I'm a very cleanly person. I like to be clean, and I like to have clean things around my body, like Puracell or rubbing alcohol, ethanol or whatever. And I just have those on me all the time, because if I don't have them, then I start to freak out and I start to really get scared or whatever. I start to cry maybe. No, I would never cry. I'm not a crybaby. I'm too handsome to be a crybaby, let me tell you. I'm a handsome boy. SparkleDart is a handsome boy. And that is a SparkleDart guarantee. I will tell you that not everybody thinks so. Not everybody agrees with me. And that's absolutely fine. In my opinion, it's okay if you think that, because it's an opinion, and I can't hate you for having an opinion, but I do resent you, and I will resent you, and that will not change. So please just kind of understand that that's kind of where I'm at on this whole subject. That's kind of just my thing. Now, So anyways, so there was a thing a little while ago about some lady who had octuplets. She had 8 babies. That's a lot of babies. How could you fit that many babies inside of your body? That's ridiculous. Now, they did something like that on The Simpsons, but it's like, well, this is a cartoon, so it's fine that they have 8 babies. It's fine that they have 8 babies that are born after Maggie Simpson, but are in preschool and aging and talking a lot sooner than she is, even though she's still the same age and she's been in the show for 29 years now. And it's like, well, this is kind of unbelievable. It's ridiculous. I don't really believe it. So yeah, just something to think about. Not something I'm too upset about or nothing like that. Just something that I've been thinking about a couple of times before in the past with me and my friends and my body. Now, 8 babies, I don't know how you could possibly care for that many babies. That's just too much. I can't even imagine how somebody could have 1 baby and be okay with it. I would give it away. I would send it down the river like Moses or Judas? Jesus? Was it Moses that got sent down the river? I hope it was. I don't want to sound ridiculous. I don't want to sound like a liar. You remember that episode of the Rugrats where Tommy was Moses and he was like Jewish and then he had these old Jewish grandparents? And it's like, well, when was this established exactly? I don't remember this ever being talked about before. Pickles doesn't sound like a very Jewish name. It's not like Picklestein or Pickleberg or nothing like that. It's just Pickles, and then they got the baby named Dill, and it's like a funny joke, but nobody understood the joke until like 10 years later after they stopped watching the show. But also after they learned what dill pickles were, because maybe they weren't so certain about it, maybe they didn't know, maybe it was something that their parents never sat them down and talked to them about. Like, hey, son, you know about the birds and the bees? We talked about sex and having sex and intercourse, but have we ever talked about pickles before and how they're made? And he's like, no, we have not done that yet, Daddy. And then Daddy would be like, yeah, it's kind of like you've seen how it's made, right? There was an episode where they talked about how they pickle cucumbers, and it's like, well, is that really all pickles are, or just cucumbers that have been like sitting in vinegar for like a day or two? And Daddy's like, yes, that is exactly what pickles are. You're a very smart boy. You picked that up very quick. And hey, let's go down to the local In-N-Out and get a jar of pickles and then eat them on the overpass. And I'm like, yes, that is a very good idea. I like that idea. Let's go do that. So anyways, that's something to think about. This has been SparkleDart. Goodbye. Mwah.